All righty, we just made the transition across the pond. Alan in Ireland passed the torch to Gary just outside of Washington, D.C. I went out for breakfast this morning, had to stand in line behind a bunch of trucks. Of course, the mainstream media is telling us there was only, 20 or 30 trucks. It's no big deal. But I can tell you, if my little neighborhood 12 miles south of Washington, D.C. was any indication, there was a little better turnout than what your national news is reporting. In any case, you're listening to the United We Strike Radio Marathon on November 12th, 2012. And our next presenters for today's program is Dean Lloyd, Dr. Dean Lloyd, and Am Rosen, and I'm going to bring them live right now. Guys, I think you're on. Yes, I think I hit all the right buttons. You're live, guys.
Boy, are we ever on. Hi, everybody. My name is Am Rosen, and by the way, it's such a pleasure and a privilege to be able to share with so many intelligent people. One of the truly reliable aphrodisiacs is intelligence. And in that vein, I want to certify United We Strike as a very turned-on situation. All right, so here we are. We're in life. We don't create it. We just partake of it. And we find ourselves moving through the various circumstances that life presents to us. Think of it as, if you would, as a game. Like, half the game is energy. The other half involves consciousness. Analogize that. Think of the human situation as a big, all-in card game. And everything's in the pot. The whole situation's been put in the pot. It's a winner-take-all kind of situation. And the human situation has just called me. And I respond, okay. Okay, humanity, I see you're desperate, anxiety-riddled, self-destructive incompetence. I raise you a global, evolutionary leap of functionally applied, enlightened understanding. Now, I'm calling you. One of the things that Dean and I, we have another show. It's broadcast the first Friday of every month, Friday evening, on Wolf Spirit Radio. It's called State of Mind, Quality of Life, because the first will certainly qualify the quality of your life. And in last month's, we did the human situation part 1, which was taking stock. Why are we going through what we're going through, despite all the intelligent ideals, interesting, pragmatic information? We keep trashing ourselves. Why is that? Well, we're going to be doing next month, the first Friday, part 2 of the human situation. And what I wanted to do, and I know Dean will have a lot to say, is I wanted to give you the introduction to part 2, so you can see where we're going. We want to create not just, it's important to look at, as many good people are, all the nonsense, the ridiculousness that's going on. But that's like a back and forth battle. It's time to raise the ante. And in that light, let me give you this. Since the dawning of human potential, when our species first began to self-consciously struggle for survival, the essence, or if you would, the soul of our awareness, that is, our spirit, has sought to free itself. With painstaking, hit-or-miss determination, we have sought to gain control over any and all forces which restrict and relegate the potency of our developmental motion. Through countless individual efforts, our collective self has fervently wished for and expediently constructed any means by way of tools, techniques, methods, and mindsets that could seemingly enable us to attain mastery over circumstance and therefore further liberate our movements. In our frantically desperate rush for safety, security, and pleasure, you know that highly advertised, always goading, greater access carrot, dangling in promised deliverance just before, yet never quite in reach of the fear and hope-riddled beast of burden. We have willfully and inadvertently stumbled our way into inventive brilliance. Our mishmash of accomplishments, along with our damn the consequences as long as I get my way, careless indifference, has brought us to the apocalyptic anxiety of our current evolutionary brinksmanship. Okay, so to speak, the genie of our haphazard inventiveness is out of the bottle, trying to serially nullify all the ills that Pandora's curiosity set loose into the world. Or, to put it more succinctly, our collective genius has become dangerously sickened, and as of yet we haven't been able to figure out how to actually regain harmoniously beneficial balance. Even as we dementedly indulge in an orgy of misery-inflicting, self-congratulatory one-upsmanship conquest, we are poisoning and impairing the very life-sustaining ecosystems which make our continued existence possible. So, why is it that against our reason, desire, and better judgment, we keep on trashing ourselves? What are we hoping for? What are we expecting to happen that will save us from the social mayhem of our own ineptitude? Perhaps breakthroughs in science and applied technology, as instituted through the draconian Big Brother benevolent tyranny of some corporately imposed social system of dictated behavior, will make some form of existence tolerable. Or maybe some more highly advanced extraterrestrial and or interdimensional species will show up to guide us towards a new evolutionary phase of social harmony. Of course, there's always that old perennial standby of divine intervention swooping in to lead us into an age of peace and love. Oh yes, and for the constipated nihilists, there's always the longed-for hope that some truly mind-numbing bit of pharmacological euphoria will be developed so that you really don't have to care one way or the other about anything. Allow me to interject for a moment that the so far mentioned human screw-ups are in no way meant as a judgment, criticism, or slur on anyone's personal sense of self-worth. However, what I do find appalling is the degree of self-defeating ignorance that the human condition has so far been relegated to processing through. At the very unripened age of 4 years, I started on a very serious quest to puzzle out what I couldn't help but recognize was the human predicament. It was 7 years later, at the age of 11, that I committed my life to understanding how consciousness processes through the human nervous system, why we have the problems we ceaselessly struggle with, and how to resolve, elevate, and evolve human potential. Candidly, I've completed my task, the one I set for myself, and I'm now ready and able to make these understandings accessible to you. What will save us? What will deliver humanity from the all too possible dilemma of impending doom? Is there a way to finally resolve the inequities which too often viciously denigrate the quality of social interactions? what's available to us that can make a truly constructive difference. How can we improve the human condition? Yet, even if you are given the means, perspectives, techniques to live a healthier, more satisfying life, physically, mentally, spiritually, socially, will you be able to let yourself take advantage of such positive offerings? What could possibly keep you from acting in behalf of your own best interest? What is standing in the way of human unfoldment? Yes, indeed. I was hoping you might ask me that. Of course, this will just be the opening, a sort of coming into view germination of a new operative mode of human awareness. In this broadcast, which is part 2 of the human situation, we intend to introduce you to a newer, overarching, more inclusively integrated paradigm of consciously applied human development. This transmission will focus on individual advancement and the advantages of upgraded personal development. Next month in part 3, as we continue, we will focus these considerations into their collective application and social relevancy. So, now let us constructively and functionally start to envision, where do we go from here? Dean, please jump in.
Thank you, Em. What a beautiful introduction. Our show will be airing next month, the beginning of next month on Friday, State of Mind, Quality of Life. And after hearing what you've just said, it comes to my mind, how do we practically apply this new attitude? And what does it look like? And I have a story of a pharmacist that might illustrate this in a quick way, because it's a common story. It's one where this pharmacist saw all of his training, all of his research and time, and all of his invested his energy, money, years of going to school and being out in a world where he's locked into a particular way of acting. And I talked to this man on several occasions, and he expressed to me on one of them that this is not what he was intending to do. He had been funneled into a perspective that this is the way to operate. And being a pharmacist, he's got understanding of chemistry, he knows drug interactions, he knows what people come to him hoping to achieve, but he sees that what is happening all around him is not facilitating the healing process. And he entered in med school, the pharmacy school, with that intention of being a facilitator for this. How does he get out of this being stuck and get out of this mindset that he has been trained in a way where there is no success, there is no way of achieving true satisfaction using the methods or tools that he has? So he has not been playing the game the same way ever since he's made that realization. The diabetics in his community are just skyrocketing. Pain management is not properly working. People are getting less and less healthy. They're more dependent on the medications, and it makes him sick. This is why, when you brought in that introduction, I came up with the question is, how does someone like this pharmacist practically apply a new attitude or a way of saying, gosh, I have all of these tools that aren't properly facilitating my work or doing what I intended them to be. I'm stuck. And in the process of being stuck, I'm getting sick. And what do I do to break out of this? And this is where we need to address on the fundamental perspective of how we got here. What is it that brought us to this point? That was our first show. And now the second show is, what do we do now that we're at this place in transition, which I hear a lot of people being very good at identifying the problem, but where do we go out of this dysfunctional place or this stuck place for this pharmacist? So, Am, I'd like to ask you, could you address, what would you say to this pharmacist after he opened up to me and said that my life isn't working? What do I do?
Well, that's a great question, Dean. Look, as you know, state of mind. But people don't understand states of mind. Between what you think and what you feel, we rationalize. Hey, it's not that I'm not a happy person. Just if I didn't have to put up with this and they'd be more like that and he wouldn't do this and she would do that and blah, blah. What we're doing is we're rationalizing. And who we're rationalizing to are the negative feelings we have, that no matter how intelligent or appropriate our thoughts are, we still don't feel that way. Now, regardless of what you think or avoid thinking about, it's your feelings that control your visceral organs, the tissue disposition in the body. So quite often we are telling ourselves one thing, trying to discipline ourselves into a healthier way of life, but we're still sabotaging ourselves. And what I would tell him is what I want to tell everybody. It's time for you to gain control. Not avoiding, not escaping, not denying, not relegating yourself into a particular elevated form of tunnel vision where everything has to fit into a mold, but to become open and fluid. In other words, for these different levels of perception, each one has their own way of processing and their own way of interacting with each other. I'm talking about the first three right now. Your physical sensations, your senses, your feeling responses, how you feel about things, how you respond, and your conceptual intellect, how you use symbols to leverage your awareness into a relationship of form and function. These things are turned against each other, and regardless, we have our moments. As I said, we discipline ourselves, we become determined. And we may achieve wonderful insights, great breakthroughs, and we'll see it for a moment. But then if we don't hold to the discipline, what do? You can't hold to it all the time. We fall back into these old feeling response patterns, which were conditioned in before our intellects developed. They are irrational, unreasonable, and illogical, but they predominate, which is why we keep trashing ourselves. So I would say, physician, heal thyself. To help others, you're going to have to first free yourself. First come to, and anything that makes you uncomfortable, to any degree, a slight momentary annoyance and irritation, you don't even know what that was, or you can't get out of it. You're depressed, you're stuck, and you can't stop picking on yourself. Those things are never anything more than a misunderstanding of how to more appropriately, adequately, and effectively deal with the energies. They're not good, they're not bad. They're not right, they're not wrong, but they are not suitable for the dynamic you need to process through. Now, a lot of people have knowledge, but the art of health is one of individual application. You have to be able, yes, you want the scientific information, you want a thorough working knowledge of the physiology and its interactive processes, but the X factor in all of this for each and every one of us is consciousness. And in order to see how to most effectively apply these various techniques we come up with, and they're just ways of focusing and concentrating, bringing the energies into a certain arrangement, then you need to be able to see each person. But most of us don't see ourselves. And the discrepancy between what we've created, what we can intellectually comprehend and project, fantasize about, and the level that we're operating from is tearing our individual bodies apart, and they're tearing the body politic apart. You might have heard me say the beast needs a good master. It's time for the body to be mastered. Yeah, Dean, go ahead.
Just to elaborate that on, you were saying the beast needs a good master, and I have the question, who is in charge? In other words, how in the case of this man saying, are my efforts in vain? And I'm using this as an example. It could be applied, you just said you'd say this to him or anybody. But are our efforts in vain? What I'm doing here is the system that has been imposed on me is a system I'm working in. With so much as it being not serving our needs, where is the hope? In other words, how am I going to transition out of this being in a locked place? And I know the answer to this, but I want to present it to you to hear your response. How am I going to get out of this mindset that shows that I'm doing something worthy or worth doing? Or how am I going to facilitate my mind to make this transition possible, even though I may be working day to day, making a living, being a pharmacist or being a mechanic or whatever it is you do? How are we able to make this transition in understanding what's the first steps? What are the practical steps of paradigm shifting to make this possible, to attain this high place you're speaking of?
Well, as you very well know, Dean, I've created something I call the process, something I long to teach to the professional community, because individually I can only facilitate so many people on a personal level. But the basis of it is, the first thing is to break permanently, non-regressively, break the grip of the subconscious, to bring your feeling responses back under the malleable, adaptive, flexible control of your self-conscious awareness, rather than having them stay stuck in an irrational subconscious pattern by the people and circumstances that inadvertently conditioned and programmed you before you could think. You know, when you're 1 or 2, you don't say, "Hey, Mom, Dad, all this stuff you're laying on me is kind of interesting, but cool it for 20 years. Hey, I need some scientific proof. I need some second opinions." You are dependent, ignorant, helpless. Everything is doing unto you. You fall into patterns of response. You later, as your intellect comes online and you just start the process, you identify yourself self-consciously. I'm me, I'm a boy, I'm a girl, whatever. That's when the war starts inside of people. Between how well they start to think, "Hey, okay, but I'd rather do it this way. This is better for me," and how they've been made to feel. Now, as I said, the feelings are running the physical disposition of the body, the visceral organ responses, the tissue disposition. And so you can be telling yourself a whole bunch of wonderful things, quoting wonderful ideologies, everybody patting you on the back and saying you're God's gift to the world. But inside you can be tearing yourself apart. So the first thing is to break the grip, bring your feelings back under your control so that you can change them at will. Then the second step is, after you do that, you're free, but all you know is what you've known up to that point. You're locked into old patterns. So the next step is to learn to repattern at will, to look at any situation you're involved in, whether it's friendship, lovership, familyship, businesship, health, whatever it is that you're dealing with, and identify when you first locked in to the way you respond to it. Now, through the years, you've overlaid it. You've brought sophisticated ideas and techniques to it. But there is a pattern of response. You need to be able to go back. It's not that hard to do when you understand how. Once the feelings are open to you, and see what it's worth, where it's working, where it isn't, where you locked into it. All healing is a process of becoming conscious. When you're conscious, you have access and you can redirect the energies involved. You gain control. When you're not conscious, the energies control you. If you're conscious, you need certain nutrients to facilitate the energy sources in the body so that they can work and replicate themselves, then you give it to them. If you're not and it's all mystery, then you don't give the body what it needs, or it's hit or miss. So you want to repattern so that the next time you're thrown out of kilter, you become too tired, too lonely, too frustrated, too horny, to whatever it is that throws you out of emotional kilter. Instead of reverting to these old patterns you've carried since childhood, you now start to revert to these newly refurbished patterns, and you keep changing them at will until you've found a comfort level with your dynamic. The next step is to learn to control the workings of your mind, to find your center, not repress, not avoid, not deny, but to be able to move in to any degree you choose, only when you choose, to your senses, your feelings, your thoughts, recombine them at will or leave them alone. Know they're there for you to use, but to start to move into higher spatial relations and energy frequencies.
Hey, guys, I hate like the devil to interrupt you, and, frankly, you were really just getting into some really interesting meat and potatoes there, but, I don't want to cut your segment off without giving you each an opportunity to do, what I call that blatant self-promotion. People got a really good taste of what you're all about, but where can they go to find out more?
All right. Well, thank you. You're truly a gentleman, sir. But in the best sense of the word, you can go to you'll find a panoply of excerpts from some of my writings, podcast library I've started. You'll find an archive of our radio shows, State of Mind, Quality of Life, and Evolving the Species, a roundtable we do with Dr. Lorraine Hurley a couple of times a month. You'll find many things on there. You'll find on the homepage the process I was talking about, an outline of it, the Geigers, which can be of tremendous assistance to you if you plug into them. Go to my website. It's www.lifegame, Lifegame, lifegame.com. And we long for questions. And as far as we just started to get into, that's what we're going to be really getting into on our next broadcast. Dean, please.
Great. This is the show that we're speaking of, the State of Mind, Quality of Life that I'm referring to. And that's on the first Friday of every month. It'll be airing first Friday in November. And it's at 8 o'clock Mountain Time to 10 o'clock. So go to www.acutone.com for my website. It has all the archives of the show there. Also commercial free. I have them put up on YouTube for the Evolving of the Species, and you can go listen there. And we are going to be discussing things that have never been heard before in this particular way, and we're going to help you realize that not only is this accessible, that you can make these transitions possible to move past what has been keeping humanity stuck. What a bold statement that is. But we encourage you to come and give us your questions, because we'll take them on. And I thank you very much for the opportunity, United We Strike.
5 seconds over. Guys, thank you so much for your participation in the marathon today, and I'm going to have to take us out real quick. I'm going to play an obscure Beatles tune that there's probably some folks out there haven't heard for, 20, 30 years. Here we